Hey, what's up, everybody? How are you doing? It's the host of most, man with the master plan, the one and the only, the one of the asylum. That's right, it is Shock from the Bronx, aka Shockwave, aka Bronxville Slayer. This is a response to TEMPHUIBIS' top 20 gaming questions with question number 1. The first gaming console I ever saw was the ColecoVision. I was about 3 years old at the time, and being the youngest of 6, I had 2 older brothers and 3 older sisters, and the ColecoVision was the first system I ever saw. First system I ever played was the Atari 2600, and then the ColecoVision after that. The games I'm best at are wrestling games or fighting games in general. Any of the SmackDown games, No Mercy, stuff like that. I just can't be beat in fighting games and wrestling games. Hands down, it would have to be Terry Bogard from the King of Fighters and the Fatal Fury series. The best era for me would have to be 95 to 2000. That's when the best fighting games came out. The PlayStation 1 fighting games like, Marvel vs. Capcom and Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, those type of stuff. Final Fantasy VII, just those kind of games. The first Metal Gear Solid that came out for the PlayStation 1. So I would have to say 95 to 2000. The worst era would have to be, I would say, 2001 to 2005, because the game's just gotten so monotonous by that time. Every game tried to be like God of War, and just pretty much every game just tried to copy each other to the point where it was like you just play the same game over and over again. I think, for my last answer, I would say I prefer the authentic retro games. Because the retro games, of old, like the NES and Super NES and the, ColecoVision and Atari and the Segas and all that, they each had their own little niche. They each had their own little personalities, and you didn't need all this other stuff to make it a great game. All you needed was skill, and you needed time, and you needed, trial and error to beat the game, and you had bragging rights. So I firmly believe if you're gonna put a game back out like an Earthworm Jim or any of the games of old, you would have to at least just put the game as it was, the authentic game, and have the authentic feel of what the game was about. It's a toss-up between controllers and arcade sticks. I'm starting to get into the whole 6-axis and the PlayStation Move and I guess you could say the action controller way of playing. But I grew up on arcades. I grew up on playing controllers. So for now, it's like a toss-up between those two. Believe it or not, I have. Over the years, I've had like 2 Nintendos, 2 Super Nintendos. I had like 2 Sega Game Gears, and the Neo Geo controllers you'd have to buy all over again, and sometimes you'd have to buy the whole system for the Neo Geo CD. PlayStations, I have like 2 PlayStation Slims, 2 PlayStation 2 Slims that I'm looking at right now. That's pretty much sitting in front of me. But yeah, I've brought consoles more than once. Wow, this is a tough one. I would say for retro gaming, I would say Fatal Fury 2. I actually have the soundtrack to that on CD. Like in Chinatown, you could buy the soundtrack for any video game whatsoever. So, Fatal Fury 2 was my favorite retro soundtrack. My favorite, I guess you could say, like PS2, Xbox era, was the Kingdom Hearts soundtrack. I could listen to that song all day, that intro song. But for now, I would say for the next gen, I would say my favorite soundtrack would have to be the DJ Hero soundtrack. Have I ever played the Video Game Challenger? No, I haven't. I've never played the Video Game Challenger. It sounds like a neat console where you use VHS cassettes. I have a ton of VHS cassettes, still in my house, and I actually still have a VHS player. So, it would have been cool to have one of those. Well, this is an easy one. I prefer gameplay over graphics any day. Some of the games that had the worst graphics of all time had the best, gameplay of all time. Like hell, Fire Pro Wrestling, for example, the graphics were a little crappy, but at the same time, you had so many wrestlers, you had so many ways of fighting. It was just a great game. So I definitely would take gameplay over graphics any day. I would have to say yes. I have beaten Super Mario Brothers for the NES all the way through without taking warp zones. To me, taking warp zones was was the pussy way out, And I remember staying up to like 4 in the morning on a school night playing Super Mario Brothers, and just beating it all the way through, and then having to play it all over again because once you've beaten the final boss, you just automatically start the first level again. To me, it was fun. It was just a game that you could play over and over again. So yeah, I have. This is another tough question. I do prefer cartridges because they're more durable. You know, uh, you know how many times you'll drop a disc by accident and you'll be like, God damn it, I hope this thing works. So even though the discs do have more of a polish to it and more of a memory to it where you can store more stuff, um, I would say cartridges. I do prefer cartridges better. Well, at the moment, the console that I have the least games for would have to be the PlayStation 3, just because I'm getting all my stuff all over again. So for now, I only have like 6 games for it. But once I would say around October, November, the one I would have the least games for would be the 3DS, since I don't have any games for it or the console for it yet, but I do have it on pre-order. I played with 20 people at one time at local multiplayers. When I used to go to Catherine Gibbs, we used to always play Unreal Tournament on our computer, on the Mac computers, and we would have like 20 people in that class just playing with each other in Unreal and just shooting people in the face and doing headshots and stuff like that, and having bragging rights and talking about it in between classes. So 20 would be the most. The 2 games I would like to see crossover, and I actually had a little dream about that the other day. I would love to see Uncharted crossed over with Tomb Raider. I think both characters were, with Lara Croft and with Nate Drake, they would complement each other very well. Okay, this one is another easy answer. I would say the worst glitch I've ever encountered, or game with the worst glitches I've ever encountered, was SmackDown versus Raw 2010 for the PlayStation 2. This had so many glitches and so many blue screens and black screens of death that it wasn't even cute or remotely funny. I would say about 63% storyline matters in the game. Just going back to those games like Metal Gear Solid for PlayStation 1 and, Final Fantasy 7, it was like the storylines were so perfectly done that it drew you into the game. And, even Kingdom Hearts 1 for the PlayStation 2, like the storyline just it drug you into the game so much that you were highly invested into that character. So I do believe that storyline does play a very pivotal role in your gameplay experience. My favorite game mascot would have to be, I guess you would say, once again, Terry Bogard for Neo Geo. Coming up second would have to be Mario. He's the hardest working man in video game history. He was in so many games and he was like the mascot for so many systems. So I would have to say Mario, hands down. I would have to say I would make a all female MMA game. I think that's pretty much been lacking from the gaming world. Uh, Female mixed martial arts is an actual, it's a pretty cool sport, pretty entertaining sport. They really do go at each other hard. Like some of the female MMA fights that I've seen were better than some of the male MMA fights that I've seen, and that's saying something. So I would probably make a all female mixed. This one. I don't know. This one's kind of difficult, but in the same because TEMPHUIBIS' music could be used in so many different genres. But I would say the ones that come to mind right off the bat would have to be like a R-type side scroller, like a side 2D shooter. Like I don't know, like R-Type, or even a game like Flashback for the Super NES. That was another game that his music would have meshed perfectly with. All right, those are all the 21 questions. I hope you enjoyed my answers. I hope you agreed with some of them. If you disagreed, then just leave a message. You know what to do. uh, thanks to TEMPHUIBIS for making this questionnaire. It was a little taxing to put it all together, but it was pretty cool. And shout out to my cell phone for constantly ringing while I'm doing this. So just take care, everybody, and leave the comments at the bottom.